The wind carried secrets through the pines that surrounded Gabriel Hale's estate. At first glance, it looked like any other house tucked deep in the forest, all stone walls. Windows shuttered tight, a chimney that exhaled pale smoke into the gray sky. But to those who passed by, rare as that was, there was something unsettling about it. The silence seemed too heavy. The shadows seemed to linger too long. And then there was her. Alina stood on the porch, suitcase at her side, staring at the massive wooden door. She was no stranger to work, no stranger to loneliness. But this job, this was different. Something about the place tugged at her chest, the way the trees pressed close. As though the forest itself was watching her, she had answered an ad in the paper. Live-in nanny needed. Discretion a must. She had expected a family, perhaps an older couple, perhaps children filling the halls with laughter. Instead, she found only one child. And one father, Gabriel Hale, the man who opened the door, was not at all what she expected. Broad-shouldered, tall, with dark hair swept back from a face carved in sharp lines. His eyes struck her first amber shade too deep, too strange to belong to an ordinary man. He studied her like someone weighing a choice he did not want to make. "You must be Alina," he said. His voice low, smooth, carrying a weight that made her spine straighten. "Come in." Inside the house was warm, but not welcoming. Firelight flickered in the grand hearth, painting the walls in restless gold. A little girl, no more than 6, peeked from behind the stairwell. Her hair was dark like her father's, her face soft and round. But her eyes were older than they should have been. "This is Lily," Gabriel said. "My daughter." The child offered a shy smile. Elena's heart softened immediately. Whatever shadows lingered in this house, they were not hers. Not Lily's. Alina had taken the job for the girl, she told herself, for the chance to give her some warmth, some light. But she could not ignore the way Gabriel's presence filled every corner of the room, nor the way his gaze seemed to linger too long, as though he already knew her in ways she couldn't explain. Days slipped into nights. The work was simple: cooking, reading stories to Lily, keeping the old house alive with small sounds. Yet the silence outside pressed heavier each night. At dinner, Alina often caught Gabriel staring out the window, his jaw tight, his eyes fixed on the forest as though listening to something she could not hear. It was on her second week that she began to notice the little things. The scratches along the back door, deep and fresh. The torn fabric she found caught on a tree branch near the edge of the garden. The heavy thuds at night, too loud to be the settling of an old house. And always the howls. They came with the moon, long and aching cries that curled around the house like smoke. Lily never seemed afraid of them. Instead, she would curl tighter in her bed, eyes wide but calm, as though she had grown used to the sound. Alina tried to dismiss it. Wolves, she told herself. Just wolves. But deep down, she knew. The sound was not the wild cry of an animal. It was something older, something that carried words in its sorrow, though she could not understand them. At times, Gabriel would disappear for hours, returning with mud on his boots and a look in his eyes that was both sharp and haunted. Once she asked him where he went. "The woods," he answered simply. His tone closed the door to further questions, but his silence did not silence her curiosity. That night, Alina dreamed of him. She dreamed of golden eyes glowing in the dark, of hands that gripped her arms not in tenderness, but in desperation. She woke, breathless, her sheets tangled, her pulse racing with something that felt like fear but also like longing. She told herself it was foolishness. She was just his employee. She was here for Lily, nothing more. But the house seemed to disagree. One evening, and the sky bled into crimson dusk, Alina stepped outside to fetch wood for the fire. The air was sharp, filled with the scent of pine and something metallic she couldn't place. The forest was still. To still as she bent to gather logs. She felt it a presence, watching. The back of her neck prickled, her chest tightening as though invisible eyes pressed against her skin. Slowly, she lifted her head. There between the trees a shadow stood, taller than any man, broad and hunched, its outline barely visible in the fading light. She blinked, heart slamming in her chest. For a second, she thought it was Gabriel. He moved like him. The way he carried his shoulders, the tilt of his head, but his eyes. They glowed, bright as embers, piercing through the dark, locking onto her like a predator claiming prey. The log slipped from her hands. She stumbled back toward the porch, breath catching in her throat. The shadow didn't follow. It only watched, waiting Alina. She spun at the sound of Gabriel's voice. He was behind her, closer than she expected, his expression sharp, almost wild. He seized her wrist, pulling her toward the door. "You shouldn't be out here," he said, his tone low and fierce. Not after dark. She wanted to ask him what she had seen. She wanted to demand the truth. But when she looked into his eyes, she froze, because in the firelight that spilled from the doorway, they weren't brown. Not fully. For just a flicker, they burned with that same impossible glow. And in that moment, Alina knew whatever haunted this house, whatever howled in the woods at night, was standing right in front of her. Alina told herself she had imagined it. The glow in Gabriel's eyes, the shadow in the trees, the weight of being watched, had to be her mind playing tricks. She was tired, that was all. Too many nights in a strange house. Too much loneliness pressing against her heart. But the thought clung to her like cobwebs, impossible to brush away. Even in daylight, when the forest looked harmless and Lily's laughter filled the halls. She could not forget the way Gabriel had gripped her wrist. Too firm, too desperate. He never explained. The next morning, Alina found scratches on the window frame of her bedroom. Long, thin grooves carved into the wood, fresh enough that splinters dusted the sill. She stood there staring, her pulse loud in her ears. Something had been there. Something close enough to touch the glass while she slept. When she mentioned it to Gabriel, his face darkened. "Stay away from the windows at night," he said simply. Nothing more. No comfort, no reassurance. It was Lily who broke the silence that followed. The little girl tugged at Alina's sleeve, her eyes wide. "Don't listen to the whispers," she said softly. "They don't like it when you listen." Alina froze. "Whispers?" she asked gently. Lily only nodded and pressed her face into Elena's arm. That night, Alina heard them. At first, she thought it was the wind. A low hum, almost like a sigh, curling around the corners of the house. But as she lay in bed, the sound grew sharper. Words, not clear, but close. She sat up, heart racing. The whispers slid through the cracks in the walls, calling her name. "Alina," she clamped her hands over her ears. It didn't help. The voice wasn't outside. It was inside, filling her chest, sliding beneath her skin. And then silence. Her door creaked open. Alina's breath caught. She grabbed the lamp from the bedside table and swung the light toward the door. It was Lily. The little girl stood barefoot, nightdress pale in the glow. She didn't speak. She just pointed toward the window. Alina followed her gaze. The glass was black, reflecting nothing of the room. But behind the reflection, faint and pale, two glowing eyes stared back. By morning, the window was clean. No sign of eyes, no sign of scratches. Lily acted as though nothing had happened. Gabriel didn't even glance her way when she tried to mention it. "Alina," he said instead. His tone clipped. "You must never go outside after dark. You understand?" She wanted to argue, to demand an answer, but something in his expression silenced her. His jaw was tight, his fists clenched. He wasn't asking for obedience. He was begging for it. Days blurred. The house felt different now, fragile, like glass under strain. Shadows seemed to stretch too far, and doors groaned even when no one touched them. The forest, too, had changed. Alina often watched from the garden as the wind swept through the pines, carrying with it strange scent smoke, ash, and something metallic. The silence of the woods was no longer peaceful. It was waiting. One afternoon, as she walked with Lily along the garden path, she caught sight of an old woman at the edge of the trees. Bent, cloaked, her face hidden beneath a hood. Alina stopped. "Do you see her?" she whispered. But Lily shook her head. The old woman raised one hand, pointing straight at Alina. Her lips moved, forming silent words. Leave while you can. And then she was gone. Vanished between one blink and the next, as though the forest had swallowed her whole. That night, Alina could not rest. She paced the hallway, every creak of the floorboards sounding like a warning. Her chest tightened each time the wind rattled the shutters, and then she saw him, Gabriel, standing in the courtyard. Motionless, staring up at the moon. His hands shook at his sides, his chest heaving as though he fought against something within himself. His face in the silver glow was almost unrecognizable, pale, sharp. Caught between man and something else. Alina, he said, without turning, his voice low, ragged. Go inside, but she could not move. She felt rooted to the spot, caught by the tension in his body, by the sound in his voice that was more growl than word. The forest answered him. A howl split the night, deep and furious, echoing through the trees. Then another, and another dot, not one wolf. Many Elena's blood ran cold. Gabriel's head tilted back. And for just a moment she saw his eyes blaze gold again, brighter than fire. His lips parted, his breath caught between a man's struggle and a beast's hunger. He turned toward her then. And the look in his eyes was not human. Not entirely, Alina, he said again, softer this time, almost pleading. Please. Go inside. Behind him, the howls grew louder, closer. And for the first time, Elena understood. The danger was not only in the woods. It was already here, breathing, waiting. Inside the man who had sworn to protect her. The howls had stopped, but the silence that followed was worse. It was heavy, unnatural, the kind of quiet that made Elena's heartbeat sound too loud in her own ears. She stood in the doorway, the cold night pressing against her skin. Her breath visible in pale clouds. Gabriel hadn't moved. He stood in the courtyard, tall and still, his figure cut from silver and shadow. His back rose and fell with sharp breaths, as though every muscle in his body fought to hold something inside. When he turned, she felt it. The pull dot, it was like gravity itself, had shifted toward him. Her feet wanted to move forward, though her mind screamed at her to retreat. His eyes locked on hers, glowing faintly in the dark, the color of molten gold. For a heartbeat, Alina forgot to breathe. He was terrifying, and yet she could not look away. Why are you here? His voice was rough, almost broken, as though each word was dragged out from somewhere deep. I couldn't sleep, she whispered. He stepped closer. The air between them thickened, charged like the moment before a storm. She could feel the strength in him, not just in his body, but in the way the night itself seemed to bend around him. You shouldn't be near me, he said. His tone was low, warning, but his eyes betrayed something else. Hunger, longing. Elena's chest tightened. You're scaring me, she admitted, though it wasn't entirely true. Fear was there, yes, but tangled with something warmer, something dangerous. Gabriel's lips curved in the faintest, saddest smile. Good. Fear will keep you safe. The wind stirred, carrying the scent of pine and smoke. For a moment, the world outside, the two of them, ceased to exist. The forest waited, silent. The house loomed behind her, forgotten. He took another step closer, and Elena's pulse thundered in her throat. She wanted to step back, to escape the heat of his gaze. But she didn't. She stayed rooted in place, caught in the strange spell of his presence. I've tried to keep my distance, Gabriel said. His hand flexed at his side as though fighting the urge to reach for her. But you make it impossible. Alina swallowed hard. I don't understand. His eyes searched hers. And for a fleeting moment she saw not the danger, not the beast struggling inside him, but a man lonely, burdened, aching. You will, he whispered. The air shifted. Alina felt it before she heard it, the faint rustle in the trees, the snap of a branch. Gabriel's head snapped toward the sound. Every line of his body tense. Inside now, his voice carried an alpha's command. Deep and unyielding. But she hesitated. Her gaze lingered on him, drawn by the fire in his eyes, by the strange bond she couldn't explain. Alina, he turned back to her, his voice rougher, almost desperate. If you value your life, do not question me. Go." Something in his tone cut through her confusion. She stumbled back into the house, but even as she pulled the door shut, her eyes remained on him. Gabriel stood in the courtyard, facing the woods like a sentinel, his broad frame outlined in moonlight. The tension in him was clear. Every muscle coiled as though waiting for an unseen enemy. And yet, just before the door closed fully, he looked back at her one last time. The gaze he gave her was not a warning. It was a confession. Elena's hands trembled as she pressed the lock into place. She leaned against the door, heart racing, trying to steady her breath. The house was quiet again, Lily asleep upstairs, unaware of the storm brewing outside. But Elena was not the same. Something had shifted in her. She could still feel the heat of his stare, the weight of his words. She had come here as a caretaker, nothing more. But in that brief, charged encounter, she had stepped into something deeper, something forbidden. Her thoughts tangled as she climbed the stairs to her room. She told herself she should fear him, should stay away. But the truth burned in her chest. She wanted to see him again, wanted to know what secrets lived behind those glowing eyes. And as she lay awake in the dark, the image of Gabriel standing under the moon refused to leave her mind. The danger was real. She knew it. But so was the pull, and that was what terrified her most. The days that followed blurred together. Though Elena tried to cling to routine, she cooked Lily's breakfast, folded small clothes still warm from the fire, and read stories at bedtime with a soft, steady voice. It should have been ordinary. It should have been safe. But nothing was ordinary anymore at first, which was the dreams. Every night she found herself wandering through the forest, the trees looming like walls. A golden light always flickered in the distance, pulling her forward. Sometimes she heard footsteps behind her, heavy and fast. Sometimes she felt hot breath at her neck. And always, she woke with her heart racing, the echo of a growl in her ears. Once, she woke to find her window wide open, the curtains billowing in the cold air. She swore she had locked it. Another morning, she noticed mud across the floor of her room, shaped like paw prints that led from the window to her bed. She tried to dismiss it as imagination, but the accidents began. While preparing tea, the kettle burst, boiling water spilling across the counter in a hiss of steam. The old wooden chair in the nursery collapsed beneath her without warning. The legs splintered as though clawed. The strangest moment came while she played outside with Lily one afternoon. The little girl giggled as she chased a ball across the garden, her small shoes pattering against the grass. But then the ball rolled toward the edge of the woods. Before Elena could stop her, Lily ran after it. "Lily!" Elena cried, sprinting forward. The girl stopped just before the trees, staring into the shadows. When Elena caught up, she saw it too, something moving between the trunks. Broad shoulders, glowing eyes, a shape too large to be a man, yet too controlled to be a beast. The shadow stepped back, melting into the woods. The ball lay forgotten in the dirt. Elena scooped Lily into her arms, her chest heaving. But the child only whispered, "He's watching." That night, Gabriel returned late. His clothes were torn, his hands scraped and raw. Elena met him in the hallway, her fear breaking through her silence. "What is happening here?" she demanded. "The windows, the woods, the voices. What aren't you telling me?" For a moment, his expression softened. His eyes searched hers, as if torn between truth and silence. Then he stepped back, his jaw tightening. "You don't want to know," he said quietly. "Trust me, Elena. Stay away from the forest. Stay away from me." But she could and single quotes T, no matter how hard she tried to bury her questions. They rose again each time she looked at him. Each time his eyes lingered too long on hers. Each time the night filled with howls that shook her bones. Then, next accident came 2 days later. Elena was walking the upstairs hall, carrying a basket of folded laundry. The air was still, the fire crackling below. Then, suddenly, the chandelier above groaned and shook. Before she could move, The chain snapped. The heavy glass fixture plummeted toward her, shattering against the floor with a deafening crash. Shards scattered across the hall, inches from her feet. She stood frozen, her breath jagged. If she had taken one more step, she would have been beneath it. Gabriel appeared at her side in an instant, gripping her shoulders. His eyes blazed gold in the flickering firelight, his breath harsh. "You're not safe here," he growled. "Not anymore." That night Alina dreamed again. But this dream was sharper, more vivid. She stood in the woods, the moon burning white above her. Gabriel was there, his body shifting between man and wolf, bones breaking, fur tearing through his skin. She wanted to run, but she couldn't. Her feet were locked to the earth. He turned toward her, his face caught between human and beast. His eyes found hers, and his voice broke through the growl. "Mine!" She woke screaming. The next morning, she tried to leave. She packed a small bag in secret, stuffed it with clothes, and told herself she could make it to the nearest town. She had no car, but she could walk. Anything was better than staying in a house filled with whispers and shadows. But when she opened the front door, Gabriel was there, waiting on the porch. "You can't run from this," he said, his voice quiet but final. Elena's hands trembled on the handle of her bag. "What is this?" she asked. He didn't answer. He only looked at her with those eyes that seemed to see everything she tried to hide, her fear, her longing, her confusion. And then he stepped aside, letting her pass. For a moment, thought he would let her go, but the forest didn't. Alina had only taken a few steps down the path when the air shifted. The wind died. The birds fell silent. A shape moved between the trees, fast and silent. Then another, and another. Dozens of glowing eyes appeared in the shadows, circling, closing in. The bag slipped from her hand. "Alina." Gabriel's voice rang out behind her, rough, urgent. "Inside now." But it was too late. One of the shadows stepped forward, revealing a beast larger than any wolf she had ever seen. Its fur dark, its teeth glinting in the dim light. It snarled, the sound ripping through the air, and the others echoed it, a chorus of hunger and rage. Alina stumbled back toward the porch, her pulse hammering in her ears. She wanted to scream, but the sound caught in her throat. Gabriel was at her side in an instant, pulling her behind him. His body trembled, his breath harsh, his eyes burning brighter than fire. The wolves circled, growling, snapping, and in that moment Alina understood. There was no more running, no more pretending. The supernatural world had found her, surrounded her, claimed her. Her life was no longer her own. The night after the wolves appeared, Alina could not sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw their glowing eyes in the trees, their teeth flashing in the dark. But what haunted her most was Gabriel's face as he stood before them, calm, fierce, unflinching, as if he belonged among them. When dawn broke, she found him on the porch. He leaned against the wooden post, his shirt wrinkled, his hands still scarred from whatever battles he fought when he disappeared into the night. His eyes were fixed on the forest, sharp and watchful. For a moment, Alina thought of retreating, but something inside her pushed her forward. "You didn't sleep," she said softly. He didn't look at her. "Sleep is a weakness I can't afford." His voice was tired but strong, carrying something unspoken. She sat on the porch step near him, her hands folded tightly in her lap. "You protected me," she whispered. That made him turn. His golden eyes softened, only for an instant, before his expression hardened again. "It's my job to protect this house, not me," she asked before she could stop herself. Silence fell between them. The morning air was cool, heavy with mist. He looked away first, his jaw tightening, as if the answer weighed too much to say aloud. In the days that followed, they spoke more. Not much, but enough to change the air between them at the kitchen table. She caught his gaze lingering on her hands as she poured tea. At the fire, she noticed how his shoulders relaxed slightly when she sat nearby. Sometimes he almost smiled. One evening, while Lily played with her dolls in the corner, Alina asked, "Where did you grow up?" Gabriel hesitated, his fingers tapping against the arm of his chair. Not far, but it feels like another world now. Why? His eyes darkened. Because the people there expected things of me I could never escape. Alina tilted her head, studying him. Is that why you live out here? Alone? His gaze met hers, steady, piercing. I'm not alone. Her chest tightened. She wanted to believe the words meant more than they should. She wanted to believe he was talking about her. But then Lily laughed. And the moment broke. The attraction between them grew like fire in dry grass. Slow at first, then impossible to ignore. When Alina brushed past him in the hallway, her skin prickled with heat where their arms touched. When she looked up and found him already watching her, she felt her breath catch. Yet there was always distance, always restraint. He would step back when she stepped closer. He would close his eyes when her gaze lingered too long. It was as if an invisible wall stood between them. One he refused to let her cross. One afternoon it rained hard, thunder rolling across the hills. The lights flickered and Lily hid beneath her blanket. Frightened by the storm, Alina sat with her, holding her close, whispering stories until the child's breathing steadied. When she finally looked up, Gabriel was standing in the doorway, watching them. His expression was unreadable, but his eyes told another story. A story of longing, of fear, of something he could not allow himself to want. After Lily slept, Alina followed him into the hall. You care for her more than you admit, she said. She's my blood, he answered simply. And what about me? The question slipped out before she could stop it. For a moment, she thought he would walk away. Instead, he stepped closer, so close she could feel the warmth of his body. The stormlight catching the sharp lines of his face. His voice was low, strained. You are danger to me, Alina, more than you know. Her breath trembled. And you're danger to me. But I'm still here. Their eyes locked, the air between them alive. Trembling. But then, just as quickly, he stepped back, turning away. You shouldn't be. That night, Alina dreamed again. Only this time, the dream was not of wolves. It was of Gabriel's hand reaching for hers, his eyes burning gold. His voice whispering her name like a promise and a warning all at once. When she woke, her pillow was damp with tears. The bond grew deeper with each passing day. They spoke in half-truths and unfinished sentences. But somehow she felt she knew him better than anyone she had ever met. His silences spoke louder than words. His smallest gestures, the way he set an extra plate at the table without asking. The way he stood outside her door at night meant more than any confession. And she could not stop herself from feeling what she should not feel. One evening, she found him in the library, sitting in the dim glow of the fire. A book lay open on his lap, though he hadn't turned a page in some time. She sat across from him, the quiet thick between them. Do you believe in fate? She asked softly. He looked at her for a long time, then closed the book. I believe some things are written before we're born. And some things. We try to fight, but they come for us anyway. Elena's heart pounded. And us? Which are we? He didn't answer. But his eyes told her enough. Later that night, unable to sleep, Alina wandered the house. The storm had cleared, but the air was restless, filled with the hum of crickets and the distant howl of something in the woods. She passed by the study and noticed the door slightly open. Light flickered inside. Curiosity tugged at her. She pushed the door wider. And froze. Gabriel stood in the center of the room, his back to her. His shirt lay crumpled on the floor. His skin glistened with sweat, his muscles tense. But it wasn't his body that made her gasp. It was the way his hands dug into the desk, claws where his fingers should have been. It was the faint outline of fur rippling beneath his skin, fighting to break free. His head dropped forward, and when he lifted it again, his eyes glowed bright gold in the lamplight. Not human. Not fully. Elena's breath caught in her throat. The truth she had only guessed at feared. Dreamed was now real before her eyes. Gabriel was not just a man. He was something else, something wild, something dangerous. Elena's breath caught in her throat. She wanted to move, to run, to scream, but her body refused to obey. The sight before her froze her in place. Gabriel, half shadow, half man, with claws where hands should be and eyes that blazed like molten gold. She hadn't imagined the whispers in the woods. She hadn't dreamed the howls. The danger was not outside the house, it was inside it. Gabriel. She whispered, his head snapped toward her. For a moment, his face twisted with something she had never seen before. Panic. He took a step back, his claws scraping the desk, leaving deep marks in the wood. "You weren't supposed to see this," he said, his voice raw, almost breaking. Alina shook her head, her heart pounding so hard it hurt. "What are you?" Silence stretched between them, heavy and sharp. He stood breathing hard, chest rising and falling, his body trembling as though he fought to contain something too powerful to hold inside. Finally, he spoke. "I'm the reason you hear howls in the night. I'm the reason the woods go silent. I am the thing your stories warn you about." His voice was low, filled with shame, but there was no denying the truth. "You're a monster," she whispered before she could stop herself. The words cut the air like a knife. Gabriel flinched, and for the first time he looked, wounded not by claws or teeth, but by her voice. He turned away, dragging in sharp breaths. Slowly, the claws retracted, his fingers reshaping. The ripple of fur beneath his skin faded, leaving only a man again. But Alina had seen enough. "I didn't choose this," he said, his back still to her. "This curse was born into me. Every night the moon calls, and I fight it. Sometimes I win. Sometimes I don't." Alina swallowed hard, her fear warring with something she could not name. "And when you don't?" He turned then, his eyes dimmer but still burning with a light no human carried. "When I don't. People get hurt." Her chest tightened. The memory of his warnings echoed back. "Don't go outside. Don't follow the sounds. If you value your life, don't question me." She had thought he was being protective. Now she knew he had been protecting her from himself. Alina backed toward the door, her hand trembling against the frame. "Why didn't you tell me?" His jaw clenched. "Because you would have run. Because you'd look at me the way you are now." She didn't answer. The silence between them stretched, thick with fear, confusion, and something more dangerous, longing. Because even as her mind screamed, "Run!" her heart whispered, "Stay." He took a slow step toward her, careful, as though afraid she might break. "Alina, I swear I've never hurt you. I've fought against every instinct, every pull, just to keep you safe. Safe." Her laugh was sharp, almost bitter. "I'm standing in front of a man who grows claws under the moon, and you think I'm safe?" His eyes darkened. "Yes, because I would die before I let myself hurt you." The words hit her like a blow, desperate, full of something she didn't want to name. She pressed a hand to her chest, her thoughts spinning. Everything about him now made sense, the way he disappeared at night. The scars on his hands, the warning in his voice, and yet the truth left her adrift. Standing on the edge of something she could not understand. "You should have told." "Me?" she whispered again. "I couldn't," he said, his voice almost breaking. "Because I care for you more than I should. And caring for me has never brought anyone peace." The confession lit fire in her chest. Her heart leaped, even as her mind reeled. He cared. She wasn't imagining the pull, the glances, the unspoken bond. But that truth was as dangerous as the claws he carried. Outside, the wind howled against the windows. Alina felt as if the whole house leaned closer, waiting for what she would do. Her voice was unsteady when she finally spoke. "What if I can't look at you the same now? What if all I see are the shadows?" Gabriel's expression hardened, pain flashing in his golden eyes. "Then I'll leave. You and Lily will never see me again. You'll be safe. That's all that matters." Something in her broke at his words. The thought of him leaving tightened her chest with a pain she didn't expect, but fear still clawed at her. Could she trust him? Could she trust herself? The silence shattered with a sharp sound outside, a branch snapping. Too close, too heavy to be the wind. Gabriel's head turned instantly, every muscle in his body tensing. His voice dropped into command. "Stay here." He moved past her, swift and powerful, the predator barely held beneath the skin. Alina followed him to the porch despite his warning. The forest stretched before them, quiet and dark. Too quiet, then movement. Shadows shifting between the trees. Not one. Not two. More. Elena's stomach dropped. They weren't alone. Gabriel growled low in his chest, a sound that raised every hair on her arms. "They've come too close." She stared at him, fear rushing through her veins. "Who?" His jaw tightened. "Others like me. Wolves who no longer fight the curse. They smell weakness. They smell you." Her breath caught. Danger pressed close. Not imagined this time, but real. The supernatural world had not just brushed against her life, had stepped into it, and she could never step back. She turned to him, her voice breaking. "Why didn't you tell me everything from the beginning? You put me in the middle of this without asking." His eyes met hers, fierce, glowing in the dark. "Because I didn't want to lose you." The words hit her like a blow. They burned with truth, with pain, with something dangerously close to love. But instead of steadying her, they broke her. Because if he had hidden this, what else had he hidden? How much of what she felt, what he confessed, was real land? How much was just another part of the curse he carried? For the first time since she arrived, mistrust bloomed inside her. Sharp and cold dot, and though the danger outside grew closer, it was the doubt between them that hurt most. The house no longer felt like a safe place. Every creak of the wood, every whisper of the wind pressed against Elena's nerves. The forest that once looked peaceful now stood like a wall of teeth and eyes, hiding enemies she couldn't name. And yet, the strangest danger of all was inside Gabriel. Since the night she saw his claws, everything between them had shifted. Fear lingered, yes, but so did something deeper, a bond neither of them could deny. She found herself watching him without meaning to how he moved with quiet power, how his gaze softened when it landed on Lily, how his presence filled the house like a storm waiting to break. But there was more now. A shadow in his eyes, a constant tension as though he expected the world to strike at any moment. One morning, Elena stepped into the kitchen and froze. Gabriel stood by the window, his shirt torn, blood seeping down his arm. His breathing was ragged, his hair damp with sweat. Her heart leaped. "Gabriel, what happened?" He turned quickly, hiding his arm. "Nothing you need to worry about." She stepped closer, anger rising. "Don't lie to me. You're hurt." His jaw tightened. "It's not my blood." The words chilled her. "Then whose?" He looked at her for a long moment, then away. "Enemies who came too close." Elena's stomach twisted. "Enemies. There are wolves who've given themselves to the curse completely," he said quietly. "They kill without mercy, without thought. They smell me here. They smell you." Her throat tightened. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" His voice dropped, heavy with guilt. "Because you'd leave, and I couldn't bear that." Her chest ached at his confession. He was dangerous, yes, but his honesty in that moment felt raw, unguarded, without thinking. She reached for his injured arm, brushing his skin with her fingertips. He flinched, but didn't pull away. "Let me help you," she whispered. He looked at her hand, then her face, something unspoken burning in his eyes. Slowly, he allowed her to wrap his wound, her hands trembling as they touched him. The air between them thickened, charged, until she could hardly breathe. That night, Elena dreamed again. She was running through the woods, the moon blazing above. Shadows chased her, teeth snapping at her heels. Just when they caught up, a figure appeared, Gabriel, his body half wolf, half man, standing between her and the beasts. His eyes glowed fierce and wild as he growled at the enemies closing in. When she woke, her pillow was damp, her chest tight. It was only a dream, but it felt like a warning. The days that followed grew heavier. Gabriel was restless, pacing the halls at night, his gaze always drawn to the windows. Sometimes Elena caught him staring at her with a look that shook her to the core, longing mixed with torment. One evening, as the sun bled red into the sky, he found her sitting by the fire. "You should take Lily and leave," he said suddenly. Her heart lurched. "What?" He stood tense, fists clenched at his sides. "The longer you stay, the more danger you're in. They know you matter to me. That makes you their target." Alina rose to her feet, anger and pain surging at once. "So I'm supposed to run? To pretend none of this is real? That you aren't real?" His eyes flared. "I'm trying to save you." She stepped closer, her voice trembling. "And what if I don't want to be saved from you?" The words hung in the air like fire. Gabriel's breath caught. For once, he didn't retreat. Instead, he reached for her, his hand brushing her cheek. His touch was warm, rough, but gentle. And Alina's whole body shivered beneath it. "Alina," he whispered, his voice raw. "You don't understand what I am. What I could do to you." Her chest tightened. "I don't care." Their eyes locked, the space between them alive with everything unspoken. For a moment it felt as if the world itself leaned closer, waiting for what would happen. But just as their lips nearly touched, a howl shattered the night. Gabriel pulled back instantly, his body tense, his eyes burning. "They're here." The next hours blurred into chaos. The house shook with growls and scraping claws outside. Shadows darted past the windows, yellow eyes glowing in the dark. Gabriel stood guard at the door, his body half shifting, teeth bared, his growl answering the pack outside. Alina clutched Lily, her heart pounding, fear racing through every nerve. But even through the terror, her eyes stayed on Gabriel, his strength, his fury. The way he placed himself between danger and her without hesitation. He was more beast than man in that moment. But he was hers, and that realization terrified her more than the wolves outside. The attack did not break through that night, but it left the house scarred. Windows cracked, wood splintered, blood smeared on the porch when the sun rose. Gabriel stood alone outside, his body trembling with exhaustion, his eyes hollow. Alina stepped toward him, her voice quiet. "You can't fight this alone." He looked at her then, something fierce in his gaze. "If I let you close, Alina, it will destroy you. My world doesn't forgive love. It punishes it." Her breath shook. "Maybe I'd rather burn than keep pretending I don't feel what I feel." The silence that followed was heavier than the storm. Gabriel's jaw tightened, his body leaning toward hers as though he couldn't resist. She felt the bond pulling tighter, wrapping around them like chains neither could break. And then a branch snapped in the woods. Another figure stepped out of the shadows, a man with eyes like Gabriel's, but colder, hungrier. He smiled at Alina, sharp and cruel. "So this is the weakness you've been hiding." Alina's blood ran cold. Gabriel moved instantly, shielding her, his voice low and deadly. "Leave her out of this." The stranger only laughed. And in that moment, Alina knew. She stood on the edge of a choice that would change everything. Run from Gabriel before his world consumed her, or surrender to destiny and stand beside him, no matter the cost. The decision weighed heavy in her chest as the enemy's laughter echoed through the trees. The forest was still after the intruder vanished, but the silence felt heavier than any howl. Gabriel stood tense at the porch, every muscle coiled, his golden eyes still glowing in the fading night. Alina held Lily close, her mind racing. The stranger's words echoed. "So this is the weakness you've been hiding." Alina couldn't shake the feeling that the threat had not only been for Gabriel Litt, had been for her. The next morning, the house was too quiet. Lily played with her dolls in the corner, unaware of the storm raging around them. Alina moved through the rooms with restless steps, her mind sharp with questions. Finally, she found Gabriel outside, near the tree line. His shirt was torn again, blood streaking his skin, though his wounds seemed to close faster than humanly possible. She stopped a few feet away. Who was he? Gabriel didn't turn. A rival? A wolf who surrendered long ago? And why did he look at me like that? Her voice shook, like he knew me. At that, Gabriel finally faced her. His expression was tight, torn between anger and hesitation. Because you don't understand the danger, Alina. You don't understand who you are. Her stomach dropped. What are you talking about? He stepped closer, his voice low and urgent. The reason they came here. It isn't just me. It's you. They can smell something in you, something old. Alina shook her head. No, I'm ordinary. You're not ordinary, Gabriel cut in. I knew it the moment I met you. Her mind spun. Memories of her life flickered her parents, their sudden deaths when she was young. The way relatives never spoke of her family's past. Strange dreams she had dismissed as imagination. Tell me what you know, she demanded. Gabriel's jaw tightened. There are bloodlines tied to the moon. Some humans carry fragments of it dormant, hidden till the right moment wakes it. Those with this blood are rare. They're hunted, desired, feared. Elena's heart pounded. You think? I have this blood. He held her gaze, golden eyes burning. I don't think. I know. She staggered back a step, shaking her head. That's impossible. My parents, they were normal, were they? His words struck deep, colder than the morning air. That night, Alina couldn't sleep. She wandered the halls, the floorboards creaking beneath her bare feet. Every shadow seemed alive. Every whisper of wind a secret waiting to be told. She ended up in the library, where Gabriel had been brooding the night she first saw his claws. Dusty books lined the shelves. Their spines cracked and faded. One old volume drew her eye, its leather cover marked with a silver crescent. She pulled it down, the pages brittle under her fingertips. Inside were stories. Drawings of wolves under the moon, humans marked with strange symbols. And one word repeated again and again, Lunaris. Her heart raced. She read aloud in a whisper. The blood of Lunaris binds human and wolf. The child of such a line cannot escape the call of the moon. Her fingers trembled. Child of the line. Alina. She jumped. Gabriel stood in the doorway, his face shadowed, unreadable. She held up the book. Did you know? He stepped forward slowly. I suspected. But I prayed I was wrong. Her throat tightened. So, my parents. Gabriel's voice was quiet, almost sorrowful. One of them carried the blood, which means you were never outside this world. You were born into it. The room spun. Alina gripped the table for balance, her breath shallow. Her whole life, her identity suddenly felt like a lie. Later, as she sat alone in her room, memories flooded her. She remembered her mother's lullabies about the moon, her father's strange warnings about the woods, the way they avoided certain nights. She had thought they were just cautious, just overprotective. Now it all made sense. A soft knock came at her door. She didn't answer, but Gabriel stepped in anyway, his presence filling the room. You should rest, he said gently. She looked at him with wide, pained eyes. Rest. After finding out I don't even know who I am. He knelt beside her chair, his gaze steady. You're still you, Alina, the woman who cares for Lily, who brings light into this house. That hasn't changed. Her chest tightened. But it has. If I have this blood, if I'm tied to all of this, then I'm not safe. I'll never be safe. Gabriel's eyes softened, sorrow and longing tangled together. Which is why I swore to protect you, even from yourself, if I had to. For a moment their faces were close, the bond between them pulling tighter, stronger. She wanted to lean in, to give in. But fear held her still. The next evening, the forest grew restless again. Wolves howled, closer this time. Gabriel stood at the edge of the porch, watching the trees. Alina joined him, her arms wrapped around herself. If this blood is in me, what does it mean? He didn't look at her. It means you're part of the prophecy. Her heart jolted. Prophecy. Gabriel's jaw tightened. The old pacts believe a child of Lunaris will choose the fate of the wolves, whether they remain cursed beasts or find redemption. That child is you? The world seemed to tilt under her feet. Me. He turned then, his golden eyes fierce. They will come for you, Alina, some to worship, some to kill. and some to claim. Her breath shook, cold dread sinking into her chest. Claim me. Yes, he said, his voice hard. Because your bond, your mate, will decide everything. The word mate burned in her mind, stirring something she didn't want to name. Tell me it's not you, she whispered. Almost pleading, Gabriel's expression was unreadable. I can't. The air cracked between them, too heavy, too alive. She staggered back, her hand pressed to her chest, her heart wild because in that instant she knew the truth. The pull she felt toward him, the bond that tangled them closer every day, wasn't just attraction. It was destiny, and destiny was the last thing she wanted. That night, Alina stood at her window, staring at the moon. Its light seemed sharper, brighter. As though it were watching her. A voice whispered in the back of her mind. Not her own, but part of her blood. You are not just his weakness. You are the key. She gasped, stumbling back from the glass. Her reflection stared back at her. But for a moment, just a moment, her eyes glowed gold. Like his. The night after Alina saw her own eyes glow. She barely slept. The truth gnawed at her. She wasn't just part of this story anymore. She was at the center of it when dawn broke. The house felt different. Shadows stretched longer, whispers of the forest seemed louder. Gabriel moved restlessly, pacing the halls like a caged beast. Lily clung to Alina more than usual, her big eyes filled with quiet fear. Alina wished she could comfort the child. Oh. But she was drowning in questions herself. By midday, Gabriel finally spoke. He stood at the kitchen table, hands braced against the wood, his voice low and sharp. They know now, Alina froze. Who knows? The rival pack. They saw enough that night. They'll tell the others what you are. Soon, every wolf for miles will know the truth that the blood of Lunaris runs in you. Her stomach nodded. What does that mean for me? It means they'll come. His golden eyes locked on hers. To use you. To break you. To take you from me. The words hung between them. From me, Elena's heart skipped. She tried to ignore the way her body responded to his possessive tone. The way part of her wanted to belong to him, even when she knew she shouldn't. I never asked for this, she whispered. I know. His voice softened for a moment, almost tender. But fate doesn't ask. For the rest of the day, Gabriel stayed close, almost too close. Every sound outside, every shift in the air made him tense. Alina felt his presence like a storm waiting to break. That night, when the wind rattled the windows, she finally snapped. You're not telling me everything. Gabriel's jaw tightened. He stood by the fire, his shadow stretching across the floor. There are things you're not ready to hear. Her voice shook with frustration. I'm already in this. Don't you see? Secrets won't protect me anymore. For a long moment, he was silent. Then he said the words she never expected. They'll try to make you their Luna. Alina blinked. Their Luna, you mean? Like a queen. His eyes burned, golden fire in the dark. Not a queen. A mate. Their leader will try to claim you, to bind you. Because with your blood, any alpha who marks you could control the prophecy. You'd be their key to power. The room seemed to close in on her. The very thought made her chest tighten with fear, another feeling she dared not name. And if you... She swallowed hard, unable to finish. If I claim you, Gabriel said. His voice low and rough, it would mean something else. Not power. Not control. Just us, her breath caught. The air between them thickened, dangerous, magnetic. For a moment, the firelight flickered in his eyes. And she thought he would close the distance between them. But instead, he turned away. That's why I can't. Not yet. The following days grew heavier. The forest seemed restless, howls carrying through the night air. Gabriel barely slept, guarding the house, while Alina struggled to keep life normal for Lily. But normal was slipping away. One evening, as Alina tucked Lily into bed, the little girl whispered something that froze her blood. They're watching me from the trees. Alina pulled back. What do you mean, sweetheart? Lily pointed toward the window. I saw eyes. Red ones. They don't like you, Nanny. Elena's skin prickled with cold. She pulled the curtains shut, holding Lily close. But even as she soothed the child, her own fear grew. The enemy wasn't just waiting. They were already here. That night, Alina found Gabriel outside, standing at the edge of the woods. His shoulders were tense, his body half-shifted, claws glinting under the moon. "They've crossed into our land," he growled. Her voice trembled. "What do they want tonight?" "You," he said without hesitation. "They'll keep testing the borders, and they won't stop until they get you." She stepped closer, her fear rising with something deeper, something reckless. "Then why don't you send me away? Wouldn't that protect me?" Gabriel turned, eyes blazing. "Because if you leave me, they'll find you. And I won't be there to fight them off." The weight of his words sank in. He wasn't just protecting her. He couldn't let her go. Her heart ached, caught between fear and something that felt too much like love. The next attack came without warning. A crash of glass shattered the stillness. Alina spun, screaming as a dark figure leaped through the window. Gabriel was on him in an instant, claws slashing, teeth bared. The living room erupted into chaos growls, splintering wood. The sharp tang of blood in the air, Alina grabbed Lily and ran for the stairs. But another shadow lunged through the doorway, blocking their path. Her scream tore the air as she stumbled back. The intruder's eyes glowed red, his grin cruel. "There you are, little Luna." Before he could reach her, Gabriel slammed into him, both wolves crashing into the wall. The house shook with the force of their battle run. Gabriel roared. But Alina froze. She couldn't leave him, couldn't tear her eyes away from the man fighting for her life. Blood sprayed, claws raked. Gabriel's growl thundered through the room. And then, in a terrible instant, the second wolf's fang sank deep into Gabriel's shoulder. Alina screamed his name. Gabriel staggered, golden eyes dimming, his body trembling under the force of the bite. For the first time, he looked less like a beast and more like a man in pain. The rival wolf grinned, blood dripping from his teeth. "Your protector bleeds. Soon he'll fall, and she'll be ours." Alina clutched Lily, her heart breaking. She wanted to run. She wanted to fight. She wanted to do something, anything. But all she could do was watch as Gabriel, her storm, her danger, her impossible love fell to his knees. The moon hung low, a silver blade across the sky, casting long shadows across the forest. The night felt alive, breathing, ready to strike. Alina clutched Lily close, her hands shaking. The air smelled of rain, blood, and danger. Gabriel stood at the edge of the porch, his body tense, golden eyes scanning the darkness. His muscles rippled beneath the dim moonlight, a predator coiled and ready. "They're close," he growled. "They won't stop until they get you." Elena's stomach twisted. She had known this day would come. But knowing didn't prepare her for the terror clawing at her chest. "I can fight," she whispered, almost to herself. Gabriel's gaze softened briefly, but only briefly. "No, not yet. You're still learning. One wrong move and stop," she said, voice trembling but firm. "I'm not leaving you." His jaw clenched, conflicted. The tension between them was electric fear, longing, and something deeper, almost impossible to name. He exhaled sharply. "Then stay close. And do exactly as I say." The first shadow moved like a whisper through the trees. Then another. Eyes glowed red. Teeth glinted in the silver light. Alina counted 5, maybe 6 wolves closing in, moving with terrifying precision. Gabriel shifted, his body morphing, muscles thickening, claws extending. Fur rippled across his skin. Elena's breath caught. He was no longer the man she had known moments ago. He was a force of nature, fierce, dangerous, and impossible to look away from. "You have to go," he said, his voice low, guttural. "Take Lily and hide." "I'm not leaving you," Alina said, shaking her head. His eyes softened for an instant, golden and molten. "If you stay, you might die." Her chest ached, torn between fear and love, desire and reason. "Then fight with me." He stared at her, unreadable. For a long heartbeat, the world seemed to pause. Then the pack attacked. The first wolf leaped onto the porch, teeth bared. Gabriel swung, claws slicing through the air, fangs snapping at the intruder. Alina grabbed Lily and dove behind a wooden post as the battle erupted. The clash of teeth and claws, the growls and snarls filled the night. Rain began to fall. Hissing as it struck the heated wood of the house, Elena's heart pounded as she watched. Gabriel moved with impossible speed and strength, tearing through the pack one by one. Blood flew, and the silver light of the moon reflected off the wet fur and rain-slicked wood. Even so, she noticed his movements were darker, more feral. His eyes glimmered with hunger, and for a moment he seemed to lose himself, his golden gaze blazing like fire. Alina. His roar cut through the chaos. Stay back. She froze, torn. Part of her wanted to run. Part of her wanted to step into the fray, to be with him, to feel the bond that pulled them together, no matter the danger. One wolf broke through the porch railing and lunged at her. Alina screamed. In that instant, Gabriel's roar split the night like thunder. He leaped between her and the beast, claws digging deep, teeth bared, fur bristling with raw energy. The wolf yelped and fled, wounded but alive, and Gabriel turned to her, chest heaving. Rain plastered his hair to his forehead, eyes wild. "You're not safe here," he growled. "I don't care," Alina whispered. Her pulse hammered. "I'm not leaving you." He froze for a heartbeat, then looked away, jaw tight, almost trembling. Something darker passed over his face in instinct she had never seen before. Something primal. "Don't," he started, but another wolf lunged, striking him from behind. He howled, spinning, claws raking, fangs snapping. Elena's breath caught as she realized how close he had been to being pinned. Wounded, maybe worse. In the chaos, Elena's fear exploded into action. She remembered the stories from the Lunaris book, the glowing bloodline, the whispers that had haunted her dreams. She felt the pull in her veins, a warmth, a power she hadn't understood until now. Her hands shook as she placed them on the railing. Energy pulsed from her, invisible but tangible. The wolves faltered, retreating just a step. A low growl came from the forest. Gabriel saw it, eyes widening. Alina. It's too soon. But it was too late. She could feel it, the force of her bloodline awakening. A surge of strength and speed, unlike anything she had felt before. The wolves hesitated, then scattered, retreating into the trees with angry yelps. Gabriel's body trembled beside her. He touched her shoulder lightly, almost reverent. You did that?" Alina shook, heart racing. I don't know. I felt it." He studied her, awe and fear blending in his gaze. "Your power. It's real. And it's dangerous. I know." She swallowed hard. "But it saved you." He looked at her, his expression unreadable. Something flickered in his eyes. Love, desire, fear. And something darker, and then the impossible happened. A branch snapped behind them. Another shadow moved in the trees. Not one of the retreating wolves. Something bigger, smarter, more controlled. Alina froze. "Gabriel." "Look." His eyes narrowed. "No," he muttered. "It can't be." From the darkness stepped a figure, tall, cloaked, eyes glowing gold like his own but colder. Malice radiated from him. "Alina?" The stranger's voice was a knife, smooth and cruel. "So this is the little key I've been searching for." "And the wolf who claims her." Gabriel growled, shifting partially. Claws extended, fangs bared. "Stay away from her." The stranger smiled. "Or what? You'll fight me alone." "You're weakened. And she's stronger than you think. But not ready." Elena's chest tightened. The pull she felt toward Gabriel, the power stirring inside her, wasn't enough. Not yet. The wind shifted. The trees whispered. The danger pressed close. Gabriel's body tensed beside her, and then the stranger spoke one last terrible word. "Mate." Alina froze. Her heart pounded in her chest. The meaning hit her like a blade. Not his mate. Not safe. but claimed by destiny. And now, in the sight of an enemy who would stop at nothing, Gabriel lunged forward. A low roar vibrating through the night, claws flashing in the moonlight. Alina grabbed Lily, holding her close. The forest seemed to hold its breath. The storm of claws, teeth, and fate was about to strike, and for the first time, Alina realized the truth. Nothing would ever be safe again. The forest was alive with storm and shadow. Rain fell in thick sheets, masking the sounds of battle, but it couldn't hide the growls, the clash of claws, or the pounding of hearts. Alina pressed herself against a tree, gripping Lily tightly. Her breath came in short, ragged gasps. Gabriel was ahead of her, moving like a golden blur, every muscle coiled, teeth bared, fur bristling. His roar split the night, echoing off the trees. He wasn't just fighting, he was fighting to protect her. And the raw intensity made Alina's chest ache. "You can't do this alone," she whispered to herself, even as the pull in her bloodline thrummed stronger than ever. The enemy emerged from the shadows, taller, stronger, and crueler than any wolf Alina had seen before. Golden eyes like Gabriel's, but filled with malice. He advanced slowly, his grin sharp, teeth glinting in the lightning flashes above. "End of the line, little Luna?" he said, voice smooth, cold. "Your protector can't save you this time." Gabriel growled, low and dangerous. "Stay back." Alina's heart hammered. Something deep inside her, something primal and wild, screeched against the fear. She was no longer just the nanny, no longer just human. The blood of Lunaris pulsed in her veins. She could feel it calling, urging her forward. She stepped out from behind the tree, Lily still in her arms, but her voice was steady. "I'm not afraid of you." The enemy laughed, a sound that cut through the storm. "You should be." Gabriel surged forward, leaping on the enemy with teeth and claws flashing. Alina felt the ground tremble as they collided, growls filling the forest. But in the chaos, she noticed something terrifying. Gabriel's golden eyes darkened with fury, almost losing him to the beast within. No matter how dangerous he seemed, she couldn't step back. She couldn't hide. Her power, the bloodline, the gift she had feared, was calling for action. She took a deep breath, forcing her fear into focus. Energy surged from her hands, flowing into the air. Lightning danced along the branches. The enemy froze for a heartbeat, startled, giving Gabriel a chance to strike. Elena's blood sang in her veins. She reached toward the storm, toward the magic in her body, and shouted, "Stay away from him." A blast of energy shot from her, invisible but forceful, knocking the enemy back. He landed hard in the mud, snarling in shock. Gabriel didn't waste a second, pouncing on him with renewed strength. The battle raged. Rain pelted their faces, mixing with blood and mud. Alina realized the fight was more than physical. It was a test of hearts, of bonds, of willpower. Every strike Gabriel delivered, every blow the enemy landed, was a reminder that their lives and their love were on the line. The enemy lunged at Alina suddenly, teeth flashing. She barely managed to dodge, heart racing, Lily screaming in her arms. Gabriel roared, shifting fully, his form massive, dangerous, unstoppable. He intercepted the wolf, claws tearing through the enemy's flank. Elena's power pulsed again, this time uncontrollable, pushing her forward. The bloodline within her flared, illuminating the night. The storm seemed to answer her, lightning striking the ground near the enemy, splitting a tree with a deafening crack. The enemy faltered. He snarled, his arrogance faltering, and for the first time, Alina saw fear reflected in his eyes. But victory didn't come easily. Gabriel stumbled back, a deep gash across his shoulder, bleeding freely. He shook but still rose to his full height, golden eyes blazing. Alina ran to him instinctively, dropping Lily into safe arms, hidden behind a tree. "Gabriel!" He grabbed her hand, pulling her close. "No," he growled. "Stay." But she refused. "I'm not hiding." Together, they surged forward. Elena's powers, wild and untamed, worked in harmony with Gabriel's strength. Together, they became a storm-man and woman, beast and bloodline, fighting as one. With one final push, The enemy staggered, snarling, and the ground shook as Gabriel pinned him. Elena's energy pulsed through the air again, forcing the enemy to retreat, vanishing into the darkness of the forest with a howl of rage. Silence fell. Elena sank to her knees, breath coming in heavy gasps. Rain soaked through her hair and clothes, mixing with the mud on her hands. Her bloodline's energy still hummed inside her. A reminder that she had changed, that nothing could ever be the same. Gabriel stumbled to her side, wincing as he lowered himself to kneel. Blood streaked his fur and skin, but his golden eyes softened as they met hers. "You're alive," Elena whispered, tears stinging her eyes. "And you," he said, voice low, ragged. "You are stronger than I ever imagined." She looked at him, heart heavy with relief and exhaustion. "We did it. But what if it comes back?" He shook his head, jaw tight. "It always will. But tonight, we survived." For a moment they sat in silence, watching the storm slowly fade. Lightning still danced on the horizon, but the immediate danger had passed. Then a sound cut through the night, a low, chilling growl, not from the enemy they had defeated, but from deeper in the forest. Gabriel stiffened, ears flat against his head. "That's not over." Elena's chest tightened. Her bond with Gabriel pulsed, stronger than ever, but so did the fear. She realized fully now, survival wasn't just about defeating an enemy. It was about embracing the destiny in her blood, the love that tied her to Gabriel, and the sacrifices she would have to make. "Whatever comes next," she whispered. Gripping his hand, "We face it together." He looked at her, golden eyes blazing with fire and something softer. "Together." But the growl came again, louder this time. The shadows shifted, and in the darkness, Elena saw another pair of eyes smoldering, calculating, waiting. The storm wasn't over. Not by far. And Elena knew with a sinking certainty that the battles ahead would demand more than strength. They would demand everything she had. The forest was quiet now. The storm had passed, leaving only the soft drizzle and the gentle rustle of leaves in its wake. Elena stood at the edge of the clearing, her hair damp and clinging to her face. The air smelled of wet earth, rain, a faint trace of smoke from the battle that had burned through the night. Gabriel stood beside her, his golden eyes soft, no longer blazing with fury. He had been wounded, yes, but alive. And for the first time in weeks, Elena felt the tension in her chest ease just a little. She held Lily's hand. The little girl's trust and innocence, a reminder of why they had fought, why they had survived. The danger was not fully gone. Enemies always lingered, but for now. The forest seemed to hold its breath in a moment of peace. Gabriel turned to her, his eyes searching. "Are you okay?" Elena nodded, though her throat tightened. "I think so. It's a lot to take in." "I know," he said softly. "I've been wrong sometimes. I let fear take me too far. I lost myself in the fight, and I almost lost you." Her chest ached at his words. She reached out, placing her hand on his cheek. "You didn't lose me," she whispered. "We survived together. And maybe that's what matters most." He leaned into her touch, a flicker of vulnerability passing over his fierce features. "Together?" he echoed, and for the first time, the word felt like a promise rather than a warning. The events of the past days weighed heavily on Elena. She thought of the enemy pack, their hunger for power, and the prophecy that had shaped her life long before she had understood it. She thought of the moments when fear had nearly overpowered her, when she had doubted herself, when Gabriel's very presence had been both comfort and challenge, and she realized something important. She had changed. The blood of Lunaris pulsed within her, alive and strong. But it was no longer a source of fear, was a part of who she was, power she had learned to accept, a responsibility she had embraced. She was no longer just the nanny, the ordinary human who had stepped into the unknown. She was something more got. Gabriel reached for her hand again, entwining his fingers with hers. "You're incredible," he said quietly. "I've seen you face fear I could barely touch. You've embraced who you are, and you've protected those you love. I don't know how to thank you." Alina smiled faintly, warmth spreading through her chest. You don't need to. We saved each other, Gabriel. That's enough. He leaned down, brushing his forehead against hers, a quiet intimacy that didn't require words. I don't want to imagine life without you. Then don't, she whispered. The night air was cool, carrying the scent of rain and the faint metallic temps of lingering magic. Alina looked up at the moon, now high and calm, its silver light gentle rather than threatening. She thought of the battles, the fear, and the sacrifices. She thought of the enemy who had fallen, the wolves who had retreated, and the bond she and Gabriel had forged in fire and storm. The prophecy still lingered. Yes, but its weight no longer pressed on her chest. She had faced it. She had faced herself, and she had emerged stronger, braver, and ready to embrace what came next. Lily's small voice brought her back. Nanny. Alina knelt, gathering the little girl into her arms. Yes, sweetheart. Lily smiled, sleepy but safe. Will the bad wolves ever come back? Alina hugged her tightly. Maybe someday, but for now we're safe. And we'll face them together if they do. Lily yawned, resting her head against Elena's shoulder. Elena's heart swelled with love. Not just for the child, but for the life she had fought to protect. Gabriel watched silently, his golden eyes warm and steady. You've done more than I could ever ask, he said. You've faced destiny, and you've chosen love over fear. That makes all the difference. Alina looked at him, her own eyes shining in the moonlight. And you? She asked. What have you learned? He paused as if measuring the weight of his answer. That love isn't just about protecting someone. It's about trusting them, believing in them, even when the world is against us. And I trust you, Alina. I always have. Her heart leaped. I trust you too, she whispered. The night seemed to hold them in a quiet, sacred moment. The forest, the rain, the remnants of the storm, they all faded into the background, leaving only the bond between them as the first hints of dawn painted the sky in soft shades of pink and gold. Alina reflected on everything that had happened. She had lost the comfort of an ordinary life. She had lost the illusion that the world was simple and safe. She had faced fear, danger, and her own doubts, but she had also gained something greater. Strength she didn't know she possessed. A bond with Gabriel that could withstand storms, attacks, and destiny itself. A sense of purpose that went beyond her role as nanny or protector. And the quiet, unwavering love that had grown between them, dangerous, forbidden, but undeniable. She looked at Gabriel standing tall beside her and felt a profound gratitude. For his protection, yes, but also for his honesty, his courage, and his willingness to face danger alongside her. They had changed each other forever, and neither would ever be the same. Gabriel reached for her hand again, holding it as he always had, but now with a calm certainty. What comes next? He asked softly. Alina smiled, brushing raindrops from her hair. We live, she said simply. We face whatever comes together. And we protect those we love. That's all that matters. He nodded, a rare smile breaking across his face. Then let's go home. Together they walked back toward the house, Lily nestled between them. The sun rising behind them like a promise. The danger of the world still lingered in the shadows, but it no longer held power over them. They had survived, they had fought, and they had chosen each other. The forest was calm now, and the moon, though fading, left a silver trace in the sky, a reminder of the night that had tested them, shaped them, and ultimately united them. Alina looked at Gabriel one last time as they crossed the clearing. I'm ready for the future, she said. So am I, he replied, and in that moment they both knew it was true. No enemy, no prophecy, no darkness could ever break the bond they had forged. They were changed forever, yes, but stronger, braver, and together. And that was enough. The storm had ended. The forest was still. And the first light of morning brought with it the promise of a new life, one built on love, courage, and destiny fulfilled.